I'm going to talk about representing Jewish women's... I'm going to talk about representing Jewish women's intermarriage in European drama from Enlightenment to the Second World War. In William Shakespeare's most renowned The Merchant of Venice, written in 1596, Shylock's punishment is to convert, whereas his daughter, Jessica, sick of the atmosphere in her father's house, elopes with a Christian lover and converts. Jessica's betrayal proves Shylock wrong both as parent and as Jew. In Shakespeare's time, the number of young Jewesses, in fact, willing to undertake free conversion and interfaith marriage was minimal. At stake was the image of the Jewish women as perceived by Christian authors. It is only later European drama which presents interreligious love as a more intricate issue, not necessarily demanding apostasy. The representation of intermarriage on European stages evolved with the Enlightenment and the secularization of Jewish life. In this presentation, I analyze several European plays written between the end of the 18th century and the mid-20th century, which reflect responses to young Jewesses' relationship with Christian men. I will focus on plays by European Jewish writers, mainly in Yiddish. The construction of the young Jewess image on European stages, La Belle Juive, as she came to be known in the 19th century, and her apostasy portrays the beautiful infidel as erasing her Jewishness, thanks to her moral qualities, rejecting and denouncing her father as an ugly stereotypic Jew, thus reinforcing anti-Jewish views from within. In Ronnie Sia's words, this trope in European literature displays, quote, the union of conversion polemics and sexual fantasy, unquote, reflecting Jewish women's exoticism and attraction for Christian men. As opposed to that, the treatment of the Belle Juive trope in Jewish writings suffers from duality. On the one hand, interreligious marriage is deemed proof of extreme On the one hand, interreligious marriage is seen as a catastrophe. On the other hand, it is deemed proof of extreme piety and sheer martyrdom in the case when the young Jewess is to become the spouse of a known Jewish king, such as Queen Esther. Among Jewish writers in Germany of the late 18th century, who addressed the topic were Isaac Abraham Eichel and Aaron Wolfson-Halle. Eichel and Wolfson-Halle were among the leaders of the Jewish German Haskalah and encouraged young Jews and Jewesses to encounter German culture, though at the same time they warned against infatuation with the new possibilities and against the danger of losing Jewish identity. In Eichel's play, Reb Chonech oder Was tut mir damit, I'm not sure about my accent. In the play, Rabbi Hanoch and his wife are worried about their children, Hirt, who is playing cards with Christian friends, and Hadass, who is dating an English physician. Both daughter and son are hiding their activities from their parents. Even Elke, the married daughter, is secretly going out with an officer to a masked ball. Each of the three get in troubles. There are many complications, and all ends well if with an unexpected twist. The family's cook, a Gentile, turns out to be pregnant. First, the parents suspect their son who is playing cards, but to their greatest amazement, they find out the tempter was their ultra-Orthodox younger son. Rabbi Hanoch reacts, "What can we do?" It sounds better in Yiddish, "Was können wir tun?" A similar message was advanced by Wolfson-Halle's satirical play, replete with Haskalah, didacticism, and originally written in German. Leichtsinn und Frömmlein, Silliness and Sanctimony. This play is much better known, and it was staged after Wolfson-Halle rewrote it in Yiddish in 1795. Among the most radical of the early Maskilim, he was one of the editors of HaMe'asef during its Berlin period and editor-in-chief in 1797. Silliness and Sanctimony is a satire on religious zeal and hypocrisy based on Molière's Tartuffe and depicts a rich family on the cusp of modernity and assimilation. Although the father is traditional, the daughter, Yetchen, has Christian suitors and reads pulp fiction. She is taught by Reb Yosefke, a Hebrew tutor who is outwardly observant but morally corrupt. Impressed by his piety, the father, of course, prefers him as a son-in-law. Yetchen rejects Yosef K. and flees to the local bordello. When her uncle and father come to take her home, they meet there the tutor, a steady customer. Only the mother, Telze, concomitantly understands the hypocrisy of the tutor, the frivolity of her daughter, and the silliness of her husband. She is the only wise and responsible adult who solves the plot's entanglements and brings matters to a happy end. Marrying off a daughter is also the focus of Cerkele by Shloime Ettinger, the production which marks the beginnings of professional Yiddish theater in Poland. The play deals with a hypochondriac woman, Cerkele, who tries to dominate her household and her society by using money stolen from the estate of her brother, whom she assumes is dead. Cerkele is terrorizing her brother's impoverished daughter, who lives in her household as a Cinderella, cleaning and working hard. The mean-spirited Cerkele discovers her jewel box is missing. Though it was stolen by Gabriel, who wants to marry Cerkele's daughter, he accuses the honest Redklek, a poor student. At the end, as a result of an incredible deus ex machina, the play's problems are happily resolved with the couples marching off hand in hand. What is relevant to our discussion, even though of secondary importance in the play, is the fact that Cerkele's own daughter, Friede, has adopted the German name Federica. That is, while her mother is preoccupied with money and intrigues, the daughter has started her prelude to possible conversion. Ettinger's play articulated a fairly standard pro-Enlightenment message. The desired world order, according to the ethos that the Maskilim sought to impose on Jewish society, was supposed to rectify what was seen as a grave social distortion. A new female figure was now added to the gallery of women characters in Jewish literature. The radical young woman, daughter of the new generation. Her emergence was sparked by the appearance of a new type of woman on the East European scene, a woman who no longer acceded to the authority of her parents from the old generation or to her husband, but who likewise did not take upon herself the bourgeois family values so dear to the hearts of the Haskalah writers. The first hint of the emergence of this young woman can already be found in the figure of Rachel, heroine of Shalom Yaakov Abramovich, better known as Mendele Mocher Sfarim, Ha'avot ve'Habanim, Fathers and Sons, 1862. Rachel does not unquestioningly accept the groom chosen for her by her parents. She also dissociates herself, at least partially, from the Hasidic cultural environment in which she was raised. I searched her heart, a young Jewish maskil says of her, and I saw that she detests those who speak folly and despises their image, unquote. Rachel marries a young maskil of the new generation out of love and raises a family with him that is utterly different from the one in which she herself grew up. But the figure of Rachel contains only a few elements of the modern female figure which the radical Haskalah sought to create based on the ideals of modernist streams in Russian and Polish society. She does not choose a non-Jew, yet her new liberty may lead to possible conversion. The new woman was deserving of full emancipation and a marriage of two partners equal in their rights and their obligations. This was exactly what Sholem Aleichem Tevye could not accept when dealing with matchmaking for his daughters. The story of Tevye the dairyman, or milkman, written in 1894, was dramatized by the writer himself in 1913. Tevye's troubles demonstrate that the Haskalah reached even the most remote shtetls of Ukraine, and the Bel Juiv's apostasy became a real threat for the Jewish way of life. The main part of the story focuses on the marriages of Tevye's daughters. Relevant to this discussion is his daughter Hava, who has a Christian friend, Fiedko, with whom shares her love for literature. Tevye's wife, Golde, tries to block Hava's marriage to a non-Jew, but they marry in the church. A marriage outside of the religion for Tevye was a very serious matter. Complying with Jewish tradition, he declares her dead and forbids the whole family to have contact with her. Secretly, he still cares for Chava and learns indirectly how she is doing. On one occasion, both meet, but Tevye forces himself to ignore her. And I have a short clip if we have time to show you. While Tevye raises Chava from the family, Golde is not willing to renounce her daughter and secretly keeps in touch with her. When Chava eventually returns to her home and to her faith, Golde is already dead, and Tevye refuses to accept his daughter back. That's the original novel and play. Yet the memory of her loving mother persuades Tevye to embrace anew the prodigal daughter. Needless to say, the novel and the play were adapted into Fiddler on the Roof in 1964 by Joseph Stein. The American version of The Beautiful Jewess's apostasy deviates from the original quite radically. In the musical, Havas does not return to her faith and home, and Tevye eventually blesses her prior to quitting the shtetl with Golde and all other daughters. Apparently, the issue of intermarriage and assimilation, so frequent among Jews in the United States in the second half of the 20th century, required some adjustments to the centuries-old trope of the Belle Juive apostasy. Another play by a Jewish playwright was the drama Manasseh, written in Romanian by Aaron Blumenfeld. The play was translated into Yiddish by Jacob Sternberg. The protagonist in this work is Manasseh Cohen, an elderly Jewish man from a small town in Moldavia who fanatically defends Jewish religious tradition. His son is a merchant living in Bucharest who maintains only superficial connections with the Jewish community, resulting from the psychological pressure exerted by Manasseh's demands. The grandchildren have a more genuine inner life than their father, caring about their grandfather and respecting him for his deep faith, but they are modern people who foster universalistic and socialist ideas and are perfectly integrated into the Romanian intellectual environment. The granddaughter's decision to marry a Christian lawyer causes the old man tremendous suffering, eventually leading to his death from a heart attack on stage. Last but not least is the Yiddish play The Duke by Alter Kaczynski, written in Poland in Yiddish. It retells the 18th century Vilna legend of Duke Potocki, the righteous convert who accepted Judaism. While the young Duke reforms his ways and formally becomes a Jew and a rabbinic student, only to die at the stake at the end, Nechamele, a Jewish young woman, is mesmerized with the pleasures and wealth of the Duke's palace. Nechamele perseveres and becomes his mistress and a sort of biblical Esther who pleads the cause of her fellow Jews before the Duke. The play The Duke makes use of two opposed motifs, the Queen Esther model on the one hand and the reversed apostasy motif on the other hand. The question of conversion and martyrdom is tackled by Kaczynski also in the Jews opera in 1937, based on the story of the Portuguese conversion and comedy writer Antonio José da Silva. Esther and the myth of deliverance have become a sort of recurring theme in Jewish literature and in fact in Jewish history. Apart from Queen Esther, we should mention Raquel, the Jewess of Toledo, La Formosa, who lived in the 12th century and was the lover of the married King Alfonso of Castile. She helped her people and paid for it with her life. A number of plays and operas were written about her, but the most well-known work is Leon Feuchtwanger's Raquel, the Jewess of Toledo, 1955. Two other beautiful Jewesses who influenced kings were Theodora of Bulgaria and Estherka of Poland. Sarah Theodora, born in the capital of the ancient kingdom of Bulgaria of a family of Byzantine Jews, from whom she received the Greek name of Theodora, was termed the beautiful Jewess. She was chosen on one occasion to present a petition of the Jews to Ivan Alexander, Tsar of Bulgaria in the 14th century, and that monarch, though he had had two wives and was the father of 3 children, became infatuated with her and married her after she had accepted Christianity of her own accord. As for Estherka, she was the legendary Jewish mistress of Casimir the Great, king of Poland in the 14th century, and the daughter of a poor tailor. Contemporary writers treated the love affair between Estherka and the Polish king as fact, but modern historians have been more skeptical, believing this to be but a Queen Esther imitative legend. The earliest written record of the story was made by Jan Dlugosz less than 100 years after the king's death. To conclude, as opposed to the Jewish discourse from the Enlightenment to the Second World War that warns against conversion and assimilation of young Jewish daughters, the Queen Esther syndrome views as heroines those who succeed to marry kings. They are encouraged to convert if that is required of them, and even then they remain Jewish in the eyes of the Jews and are considered pious martyrs. Clearly, the Queen Esther syndrome equals Kiddush Hashem. The Jewess' beauty functions as a resource and secret weapon, making her able to influence the king for the sake of her people.